Venki walks through the cemetery. They listen to the voices of the spirits as they walk through the crunchy dead grass. Venki stops at the gravestone when they hear a crying spirit. Hello? Venki spoke quietly to the spirit. Would you like to talk? You can hear me? The spirit sniffles. Now that the spirit has spoken to them, Venki can now see her as well. Venki pushes the bag that was resting on their hip behind them. I can hear you, Venki adds. I can see you too. Are you all right? No! The spirit sobbed. This is my husband's grave and he's not here. He moved on without me, and now I won't be able to see him. Venki steps forward to look at the headstone the spirit was crying over. Oh no! Your husband hasn't moved on. He wouldn't dream of leaving you behind. Venki looked back at the spirit. Your husband is living in my castle. I reanimated him to help me. He didn't want to just wait around for you. He wanted to help someone while he still could. I can take you to him if you want. Really? Of course, Venki told her. Or I can just send him back here for you. I'll come with you. Venki walks out of the cemetery and up the hill, and the spirit follows them. My name is Venki, Venki tells the spirit. Your husband talks about you a lot. He's been excited to see you. I've been excited to see him too, the spirit says. I've been excited to see him too, the spirit says. I'm Lydia Sal. It's nice to finally meet you. The two walk in silence for a long time. You're a necromancer? Lydia broke the silence. Venki pauses, putting their words together. I am, but I can also talk to spirits like you. Sometimes there are people who die who are not ready to move on yet. Or they're waiting to move on so someone they love can move on with them. I've never animated someone who didn't agree to it. And if anyone at any point feels they are ready to move on, they can. That's really nice of you, Lydia spoke quietly. Thanks. Some people don't think so, though. Venki sighs. People are scared of what they don't understand, and no one wants to understand me. The two go quiet again. The crunching of the dead frozen grass underfoot seems to grow louder with every passing moment. The air was crisp and cold on Lydia and Venki's skin. Even though it was quiet, the two felt comfortable enough not to break it. Upon entering the woods, there is a dirt path leading to a clearing. It's clear Venki walks along this path a lot. At the end of the road, there is an old castle in a small clearing. This is where Venki is cut off by the sound of a crash and breaking branches. Lydia asks, frightened. Nothing to be concerned with, Venki replies, surveilling around the clearing. Let's get inside. Venki walks to the front door of the castle, noticeably faster than they were on the walk up. Lydia matches their pace. Venki opens the door to the castle and motions Lydia to come inside. The foyer was vast and empty. Lydia looked around at the spectacle, not even noticing that Venki was barring the door and locking it. Let's find your husband, shall we? Venki leads Lydia through the hall ahead of them. What's the matter? Oh, nothing. The halls are just a little more lively at this time. Venki replies to Lydia. We'll check your husband's room first. Lydia nods to Venki. As they pass a window, it shatters behind them. Lydia turns around and looks at the broken glass on the ground, with a large stone in it. Venki, what's happening? Lydia turns around and Venki is gone. Venki? Venki, where are you? As Lydia looks to where Venki was, she hears whispers behind her. She turns around and sees people, living people, with guns. She screams and falls down. Because she's a ghost, she fades through the floor. Lydia! There's a quiet voice. Lydia opens her eyes and looks towards the voice. Venki! Lydia called. You're here, and you're okay. She notices where they are and how Venki looks. Where are we? Venki is on their stomach and forearms in a crawl space that looks barely 1.5 feet high. Under the floor, Venki whispers. There's a crawl space nearly everywhere in the castle. What? Why? This happens more often than it should. Why? Because they want to kill me. Their head shoots up and they bonk their head on the top of the crawl space. Why? Please stop asking that. They whisper as they rub the top of their head. Sorry. Let's find your husband. Venki begins crawling through the tunnel on their forearms, and Lydia floats beside them, with only her head in the crawl space. They make it to the end of this tunnel. Venki spins on their back and sits up in the now upward-going tunnel, then stands up and climbs the ladder. They are on their hands and knees and now crawl through the tunnel and the wall. They stop at a one-way mirror and look through it. The wall was lined with small mirrors that Lydia never even noticed. Venki doesn't see anyone through the mirror, so they crawl down the hall and opened a hidden door that only opens from the inside. They crawl out, take off their shoes, then throw them into the door, closing it behind them. Venki runs down the hall and Lydia follows them. Venki clutches their bag, ensuring that they will not lose it. They turn the corner, and they immediately go back. They reach into their bag and throw a stone that was in it across the room that was there. They hear footsteps of people walking away, and then they turn to run to an open door in the room where the people were. Lydia follows them, but lingers outside the door to watch the strangers, because she knows no one can see her. But as Lydia looks at the people who broke in, she hears a crash behind her. Someone in the crowd walks towards the door. Lydia goes inside and sees Venki getting into the crawl space in this room, but their bag was getting stuck. Venki, you have to hurry! Venki scrunches their face and is able to get into the crawl space and close it behind them right as the person goes into the room. Lydia sighs in relief. Lydia follows Venki into the crawl space where she can see them crawling through the tunnel very quickly. That was close, Lydia sighs in relief. Venki continues to crawl through the tunnel. Then, at the end of it, they crawl out. The second they get their arm out of the crawl space, Venki was grabbed. They gasp and try to get back into the tunnel. Venki is forcefully pulled out of the crawl space. I got him! She calls to the others. Please don't kill me! It doesn't have to be this way! Venki is tearing up. Please, let me go! Venki! Lydia yells. She ignores them, grabbing tighter on their arm. While she's distracted by ignoring them, Venki uses their free arm to reach into their bag and pulls out one of the scrolls and gently tosses it into the crawl space. Lydia looked at Venki, then down in the hole. Venki nods to her gently, then looks back at the woman who is grabbing their arm. Please, I'm not hurting anyone. Let me explain. Like I'd let you explain anything to me, you disgusting man. The rest of the mob came into the room they were in, and they grabbed Venki, moving them out of the room. Venki looks at Lydia. Find your husband, Lydia! Find your husband. He'll know what to do. Then find him. Venki is cut off with someone in the mob gagging them. The mob rips the bag off of Venki and throws it onto the floor. Lydia runs from the mob. The mob grabs Venki and drags them through the halls. They seem to have difficulty finding their footing. They get burns on their ankles as they get dragged down the hall. They begin tearing up more, only hoping that Lydia and her husband will get back in time. The mob gets to the front door, and they throw Venki out of the castle. Venki stumbles and gets cut up on the gravel outside of the castle. They sit up and pull the gag off of their face. Venki staggers up. Right as Venki gets up, they are punched in the stomach and crumple. Right as they get up, they are punched in the stomach and crumple over. Venki gets dragged by two of the members of the mob to a tree. They get tied up to the tree, and for a moment, their head falls. One of the members of the mob grabs them by their long hair and pulls them up, and pulls it until they scream in agony. Then he gives one more sharp tug on the clump of hair they have in his hand. Venki screams out in pain as the bald spot on their head now is beginning to bleed. Another sharp scream comes from Venki as the end of a large rifle comes down on Venki's shin. The cracking of their bones is almost as loud as the harrowing scream from it. The pain of their shattered bones shoots through their entire body. They fight to keep their head up as they get punched in the face. They feel their teeth come loose in their jaw. They spit out blood, desperately not wanting to choke on it. The blood pools and dances in the grass, its warmth thawing it from its icy state. Another gun's end was sent into Venki's side, the crack of their ribs quaking their entire body. But they felt no pain. The shock from the first broken bone had set in. Venki goes limp, not being able to do anything to help himself in this situation. They continue to be hurt and abused until the sound of the shotgun being loaded causes Venki to look up. They look through the woman holding the shotgun, and their eyes light up as they see Lydia and her husband standing in the front door, With the scroll, Thanky threw down the hole. Thanky coughs up blood, staining their clothes. With the last of their strength, they call out to the couple. Ekron Sal! Thanky coughs again. You are hereby released from the work in my castle. The two begin running toward Thanky as the woman cocks the shotgun. Thanky, no! Erkin yells. With the rip of your contract, your soul will leave your body and you will continue your death as a spirit. The woman aims the shotgun at their head. Erkin, I'm sorry I wasn't able to rebury your body like I promised I would. Thanky! Lydia and Ekron shout out to them, but it was too late. The shotgun rings through the forest, and Thanky's body goes completely limp. Blood drips from the gunshot in their cranium, and blood rolls off their lips. Their once white shirt is now soaked red from blood. Thanky's eyes go gray and glassy as their spirit leaves their body. Thanky's spirit floats by the mob, that's now cheering because of their successful murder of someone who became many of their loved ones' best friends. The mob cuts the ropes that bound Thanky, and their body slumps over onto the floor. The mob gathers their things and leave, celebrating the whole time. Lydia walks to Thanky, who has now fallen onto their knees by their body. I never thought it would happen so soon. They pause, trying to compose themselves. At least you and Erkin can be happy. Thanky, we could have waited. You didn't need to do this. If they didn't do it now, I knew they would just keep coming back. Thanky pauses. And maybe I did deserve it. People kill what they don't understand. It happened to my partner, and now me. I hoped I could help people, but I guess that was foolish. Why would anyone accept necromancy when they wouldn't even accept the magic of a healer? You were married? No, we never had the chance. They stood up from their body and looked toward the castle, which now had everyone from the castle coming out of it, being led by Erkin and a person beside him. The person was carrying the bag that Thanky was carrying until it was ripped off of them by the crowd. Thanky walks to their friends. I'm sorry, everyone. I couldn't be the person I promised you I could be. Thanky pauses. Please, everyone, take your contracts and rip them. You are no longer bound to me, and I'm sorry I couldn't bury your bodies like I said I would. Thanky looks from the ground and sees their friends have shovels and wood. I know you can't bury our bodies, Erkin said. But we can bury yours, right next to me. And carrying the bag extends their hand to Thanky. Thanky reaches out their hand and holds it above theirs, knowing their hand would face through it. Thank you, Arrow. Thank all of you. Behind the castle, there's an empty marked grave. Everyone begins digging a hole beside it. Thanky's body is placed in the new grave. Arrow lays down in the first grave and rips the contract they made with Thanky. Arrow's spirit leaves from the grave and stands beside Thanky. Thank you all, Thanky said, holding their partner's hand. In a flash of light, Thanky and Arrow are gone.